So in terms of Module 1, I mentioned it's planning and organization. So we have our introduction. The persons, each one is going to introduce their themselves to the rest of the group, and they need a lot of detail to be able to do this. This is baby steps. When we started our intervention, we piloted it. We really underestimated how simple the steps needed to be. You really have to go to the very basic level of when you introduce yourself, you introduce yourself by first stating your name, etc., right down the list. And in this is an example of a mini lecture of how somebody would, get organized in their life, and then you provide them with these rationales so that they can see why they want to be organized. And this is a time when you're trying to engage the participant in answering questions and talking about their own experiences. You're going to have a variety in your group. Some people are going to be mum. Others are going to talk a lot. But as the group progresses, you hope to draw out the people who are less vociferous, shall we say. And in planning and organization, again, we talk about what are the parts of planning and organization, what do you need to do, breaking it down for the person. And then the idea that this is one example of many of the particular planning and organizational skills that somebody might take home to practice. So this is something where in the classroom, the person says, yeah, I'd like to write a letter to my friend. And so then we talk about, what are you going to need to write the letter? You've got to plan for that. What do you need to write? What are you going to write about? How are you going to mail the letter? As simple as that. How do you address it? All the steps that are engaged. Then they have to organize. They have to get all the pieces that they need together to do that. And then we go through a mini lecture, which is really how do you make a list, that sort of thing. What is a list? Then there's self-practice. And then self-practice is what we're talking about is homework, really. We don't call it homework. We call it home practice because work is a negative thing. It's a four-letter word, so we try to stay away from that word and talk about building skills and doing things that the person can use in their own life. And then we write things down so that they know exactly what they're going to try to do. They write it down. And if they can't, then we assist them in writing it down. And I guess I should say, too, that one of the things that I didn't list on here is every class begins with a summary of how the homework went, why it was successful or not. I just briefly wanted to present this, the measure that I've developed that's a performance-based measure. It's really something that's a little different from most paper and pencil measures. Basically, it's a role play. That's what the main point of this is, and it's useful in a lot of different ways. There are 5 different areas that actually reflect those areas that we've trained in. The 2 top ones that are in red represent the areas that actually are in a brief form that takes about 12 minutes to present. So this is the kind of a thing that a patient would see. They get they're going to get ready for a trip to the zoo. They have to tell you what sorts of items they need to take to the zoo. They have to do some, in financial thing, there's change making. We have money that they actually have to provide change for. They have to pay a bill. They have to change their appointment with a doctor and use a telephone. So it's all role play across the road. And then this is the transportation. Here in San Diego, we use a trolley. They have to figure out how the trolley would be to get from one point to another. And we have a shopping chore, too, that they have to deal in, which is household. And all this is telling you is that the intervention worked. with people who participated. I'm not going to go through a lot of detail, and this is to remind me to show you, yeah, it worked, but this lower little spotted line that you see, or dashed line, is a group of people who start off that are cognitively impaired. And the point here is that they improved, but they improved only to the level, basically, of the group that was in the control condition. So you can get people to improve that are cognitively impaired, but they're going to need more help later on to really get it up to a level that probably will get them into the community. This is just to remind me to tell you that we have actually cut points now that provide what we think are meaningful cut points. So a score of 80 or above, you have the capacity to live in the community. We don't know yet whether people who actually score at this level that live in a board and care can actually live in the community. They may or may not, but at least they have the capacity for all indications to do that. So we're real excited about that notion. And I'd just like to thank everybody in the world, practically, who did all the thinking on this with me. I'm just the guy who comes out and gives a talk every so often. The study participants mostly I really want to thank very much. And that's